Welcome to Applicant to Alumni. I'm Joel.
And this is Mark with the podcast that helps build a lifelong relationship between your school and your students.
Thank you for joining as we build a journey that lasts a lifetime. Hey everybody, Joel Johnson here with my friend Mark Reddy. And you'll notice we're together.
We're here
in the same place. And it's great to do the recording this way, the podcast this way. How's your week been, bud?
It's been great. We are here together because we are actually wrapping up our last residency for our doctoral program.
Yep.
Both working towards PhDs in organizational leadership. So we're together in Lakeland, Florida. And it's been a good week of learning and being around great people and kind of solidifying, that we want to do this leadership thing.
The only hard part has been our class topic.
Yeah.
Advanced quantitative. Oh, no, I'm so messed up. Qualitative
analysis.
Statistics.
That's brutal.
And yeah, it has been fire hose indoctrination a little bit.
It has been. And so our heads are reeling a little bit. We thought, what better thing to do to get back on track than to talk about, becoming an applicant to an alumni and figuring out how that whole world works.
And we're thinking we're going to bring in some of the things we've learned about, because we've both done some studying on how can these leadership theories improve students' lives.
Right.
From the very beginning all the way through.
Yeah.
So we have a few theories we just kind of want to do bird's eye overviews on.
Yeah.
And then share a few pointers on that. And then we'll end up in a little bit with a little helpful tool.
Yeah.
So,
well, we've talked about a bunch of different leadership theories. And I think one that has resonated with me is authentic leadership. Authentic leadership kind of got a lot of its roots in people just wanting to have a leader that leads and does so with having other people in mind and just being authentic about their intentions, about the way that they want to treat people and, how they want to move a group of people or an organization forward. And so I thought about that in relation to admissions. And so when you are recruiting a student to your university, one of the biggest things that I think makes that successful is connectivity, connecting with the student. And they see students pick up on this. They're good at authenticity.
Oh, yeah.
If you're being real or if you're not. And, my kids tell me that all the time. I'm getting to that age where I have to understand I'm not cool anymore. And I shouldn't try to be cool, because if I try to, that's inauthentic. So we don't want that. So,
but it's hard to not be cool when you're cool.
You know what? It's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. So I guess, if I'm actually going to be authentic,
you should
just be cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Kids, they don't know.
They don't. What about anything resonate with you?
Well, one of the things about authentic leadership, and I totally agree, genuineness, realness. One, I believe when we went through that class, one thing I remember from it, being authentic doesn't always mean good.
Right.
Because you can have some rough people be authentic.
Yes.
And they still might get the mission accomplished. They might get the job done, but people might not like them.
Right.
So authentic doesn't necessarily mean you have permission to be rude.
Right.
But it does mean you should be who you are, but try to be a good person.
Right. There's the integrity, honesty. Like I said, when there was an outcry for authentic leadership, it was when there was a massive failure in leadership, when people had risen to these positions and they were in charge of making decisions that impacted so many people, and they made selfish decisions. And so what they were saying did not line up with what they were doing. And people just said, look, we just want leaders that are honest and authentic.
And I that's playing out at my school in our College of Business. And we have a new dean and who's come from major corporate companies, top ones in the country. And he said the thing he's noticed in the last 20 years in the professional world is a complete lack of ethics and governance.
Yeah.
And I think in a well executed authentic leadership at the university level, you'd have ethics running rampant and governance, and we'd be training up our students in such a way that they would see that practiced for 4 to 5 years. They would learn it so that when they go out in whatever field they're going to do, they would say, this is how you do it. And so you add authenticness with ethics, governance, and you have a very well-rounded student. You have a better school for it.
And again, I think when you espouse those ideas, it resonates with the students and their families.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they connect with that and they say, you know what, I'd like to be a part of that
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
have that style of leadership.
And I think it applies to everything. You've got the applicants coming when they see authenticness happen.
Mhm.
If you see a school being honest about some things, we don't have that. Instead of sort of saying we don't have, just
Right.
owning, we don't do that, we do this,
Right.
those kind of things. And they see that authenticness, it builds trust from that first visit all the way through. And
Yeah, the last thing you want is for a student to come to your school and they feel like they got there on false pretense.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
they think, well, you said this, or I thought this. I mean, having clarity and just being, again,
Mhm.
authentic with the student is because it's going to be it's going to be a better situation for everybody and for that student than for the relationship to
Yep.
continue
Yep.
forward into
100%.
the world of alumni.
100%. Love that. Another leadership theory we've talked a lot about, transformational.
Oh yeah.
And I think this one really works in the college setting as well in so many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the best named leadership theories because its ultimate goal is to transform the people who are being led.
Right.
And the leaders' goals and objectives are to help those on their team become better people, better workers, better team members, you name it, whatever it is to help them grow and become more.
Yeah, and again, when you connect with a student and they recognize that you are legitimately trying to make them better, trying to give them ways that they can grow and expand and reach their goals, that you're actually trying to transform them. There's something there. There's an honesty that develops. There's a different level when the student says, "Oh, not only are they being honest with me, they want what's best for me, and they want to help me develop in that." And I think that's one of the keys because, as you know, when a student gets to you as a freshman in college or comes to your school as a transfer, they don't know everything.
No.
They're at that place in their life where they're trying to get somewhere else, whether it's to get the degree. They've got all these goals and objectives, and when they recognize there's someone there that's pouring into them to help them reach that and transform them, that's a huge thing. And at our university, one of the pillars that we're dealing with is discipleship. And so as we start to set up discipleship groups, not only led by our students, but also by faculty and staff and coaches, we are, trying to create a culture where students understand this is a place of transformation.
Yeah.
This is a place where people are going to pour into me and talk to me about things that are academic, but are also bigger than that. And I think, that's a pretty important piece of the whole transformational idea.
I just thought of this too, while you were saying things about it. This applies to authentic and transformational. This doesn't apply just to the faculty-student relationship or a coach-student relationship. Anyone on a college campus who does any work with students at all can have these types of relationships.
Exactly.
And one of the schools I was at did a survey of their students and asked what was the influential things. And so many of them responded that their manager on their student employment position changed their life.
Right.
And because somebody took the time to practice these types of principles with them.
Yeah.
And it took people and encouraged them. They ended up doing better in classes and different things. So any position that you're filling on a campus like this can use these principles and change students' lives and ultimately make your campus a better
That's so
place.
good. That kind of leads into another idea that we've talked about, kind of lesser known, and almost it's weird that you would study this in a leadership. It seems weird, but it makes sense. It's this idea.
One of our favorites.
It is one of our favorites.
Yeah.
It's this idea of followership, and even more specifically, transformational followership.
Yeah.
So this idea that everybody is either a leader or a follower, and most of the time, people serve both roles.
Yes.
I mean, you could be in both roles at the same time. So as you develop this idea of being a follower, there's support of the leader, and making sure that the leader gets what they need to be successful, but also there's accountability.
Yeah.
The follower, and you got to walk a fine line here, but the follower can hold the leader accountable to the point where they know if I withhold this information, I don't tell them this, it could hurt them as a leader.
Right.
It could ultimately hurt the organization or the group of people that you're leading. So this idea of being a follower, I think, is super important. And then when you apply it to the gamut of, from applicant to alumni, developing these future leaders and showing them what it's like to be a follower. I think that's a big thing.
It's a great concept. Let's take it through the staffing of applicant to alumni. You have the admissions counselor who's first dealing with the student who's being trained by maybe their admissions director or something like that. So there's that relationship happening. You've got the leader to the follower. The follower is leading the student through the process. And then it keeps going up. The student comes in, and then it's the student and the faculty. And the student maybe goes into student leadership, student government, and then eventually it's an alumni association with that alum. And it just keeps going back and forth. And all along the way, these followership relationships are happening.
Right. And they're learning how to not only support, but they're learning how to be supported. And so when you have the leader and the follower galvanizing around a central concept, that it can be pretty powerful. And when you know both roles, you can slide in and out of them, because like I said, so many times in one area of your life, you're a follower, and in another area, you're a leader. And so understanding that dynamic is huge. And then as a student understands that throughout their experience, I think it helps shape what that relationship can be with the university as the student goes from, graduate to alumni and then beyond.
And if you can get alumni involved in a mentorship program or something, whether you're using authentic or transformational, then students see that's what alumni do here.
Right.
And then when they come out of school, they still have that relationship with that alum mentor, but then that recent graduate becomes a mentor to the next generation.
Right.
And you can have followership, whether it's authentic followership or transformational followership happening. And in 10, 12 years, you've got 5 generations.
Right. You've created a culture.
Yeah.
That as a student, I see what it is to be a follower and a leader. And then as an alumni, I then get to give back, and I see what that is. And then it just becomes the culture at your university.
This is what we do here.
Yep.
Love it.
Now, that's awesome.
Great. Well, I think we did that pretty well.
I do think so.
And
that was good.
You got a nugget of the day, don't you?
I think I have a nugget of the day.
Do we actually give credit?
I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should. We'll say we have a classmate named Glenna, and Glenna dropped this nugget on our class today, which it was so simple, but it was awesome, and it resonated with everybody. So here's the idea. It's the idea of when you come into a situation and something happens, it can be good or bad, but you have 2 choices. You can fix something or you can feature it. So fix it or feature it is what she told us. And the idea was, give an example. This was the example that was used. If there is, you're giving a presentation to a group of people, and you have a PowerPoint or something up on a screen, and there's a typo. You can see that typo, and you can just be like, well, I don't know if I can run to the computer and fix it. You can recognize it there, but then you can feature it. You can say, hey, there's a typo. I own it. Maybe you make a joke about it. Maybe you do something, but you highlight that thing, you own it, and then you move on. So fix it or feature it. I think it's a simple concept, but it's really cool.
And one point she made about the feature it part, if you feature it, it takes people's focus off of that problem, because everybody has seen a typo.
Right.
And then she said, they're going to look at every slide from then on. If you make some joke about it or you acknowledge it, it brings them back to what you're really trying to talk about.
Right. So that idea of fix it or feature it, pretty cool. Something that I think is very simple, can be applied to about anything though. And in leadership roles, I think how you address a situation is huge. And so you can fix it or feature it.
Great job, Mark. Love it.
Great job, Joel.
So on the outro, you'll hear the information how to get in touch with us. We always want to hear your ideas and your topics and make suggestions for guests, or if you think you'd be a great guest on the podcast. We've got a few that we talked to this week that'll be coming up soon. Anyway, have a great one, guys.
Enjoy it.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please email us at
applicant2alumni@gmail.com. That's applicant, 2, alumni@gmail.com.
And follow us on Twitter
at app2alum, app, 2 alum.
And Instagram at
app2alumni. That's app, 2 alumni. The 2 is in there every time.